for a little bit later on. I'm going to keep the water bottle up here. If you all don't mind, I'm going to stay over in this area because I'm definitely someone who, for whatever reason, thinks better extemporaneously, sans a mask. I am fully vaccinated. I do teach with Arizona Western College. If I approach you all, I will put the mask back on. So
I'm curious, what do you teach?
I teach public speaking down in San Luis on CAS. So,
Okay.
So I wanted to start with a little class participation. Sometimes it's fun to kick these off with you all brainstorming what it is that you want to learn. So marker in hand, what's a topic that you want to sort of discuss? Write about 4 of them up. Branding, okay. So hashtag branding, because the hashtag is literally a brand. So we can talk about the meta concepts a little bit. So another marketing. Oh, some difference between marketing and branding, because you can have a brand and not know how to market. You can know how to market and not how to brand. So there's a little bit of difference there. So 2 more. Management. Oh, I like that. So hashtag management. All right, and last one. Planning. I'm going to subset this. This is big picture. This is specifics. So this is little picture. Now, you can be good at one and not be able to micromanage or all of those sorts of things. So they are different, but it feels a bit subset. Whereas marketing is its own college major. And typically branding is something that you will see floated between business, floated between marketing, floated between advertising, floated between public relations. So while it's not its own, it's something that a lot of specific majors will attach themselves to. So my name is John Hessinger, and I'm the Community Development Director for the Better Business Bureau here in Yuma and Imperial Counties. I do teach with Arizona Western College. I have also taught with Northern Arizona University. Now, today should be fun. I'm pretty engaging. I believe that you all have demonstrated a willingness to at least have your voices heard, which is always half the battle. So we should have some questions back and forth, some different levels of engagement from time to time. Want you all to know that while I never took a class in this classroom, I did get my start here at Arizona Western College with Frank Preciado at KAWC, just around the corner from you all. I did well enough that I had my own radio show where I first started to create the idea of branding. I wanted people to know who I was, not necessarily me, but the idea of who I wanted to be through the radio. I actually did not go by John Hessinger on the radio. I went by a call sign, J. Mark Johns. And I had an intro. This is J. Mark Johns signing on, and it just kind of had a flow and an alliteration. I had different styles of music that I would play on different days at different times. I had a call-in show, all of this kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun. However, it wasn't ultimately something that I pursued full time, but it all went into the branding of who I have become. So from there, I went on and got a number of degrees in communications, in media studies, photography, all sorts of different types, and I applied it to a number of different fields, including business. Started with a photography and videography business around 2008 through 2015. Did some commercials down in the Phoenix area, worked with some LLCs, did a lot of generic sort of family / wedding / event photography. Did board of directors, including state senator. So that was my first real experience with the idea of business. Moved back here in 2016 and started a consulting firm. We'll talk about some of the significance of these. Around that time, there was a lot of confusion over the idea of benefits within businesses. because Obamacare had gone live a couple years prior. People didn't really know what their responsibilities were. So I offered free consultative services while being contracted with different types of insurers. Now, that's to say, I've started 2 businesses. I am currently no longer doing either of those businesses because both of those businesses opened up other doors. So business can beget business. Sometimes it's in your same field, sometimes it's new opportunities. I like to think of my going from being a business owner into a nonprofit directorship that works with businesses. It's kind of like a merger of ideas. Ultimately, at the core of my businesses, I mostly wanted to build and I wanted to help. And that is what led me to be a good fit for the Better Business Bureau here. So getting back to some of what we've discussed. Branding. When you think of branding, what are 3 specific companies? What are the top companies that you can think of? We'll think of 3. Apple. Okay. Nike. Good. Coca-Cola. Those are all 3 iconic. When I start saying, well, what makes their brand iconic? Like what have they showcased? What have they featured? What have some of their commercials been? What are some of their colors? When I say Coca-Cola, what do you think of when you hear Coca-Cola? Is it little? Okay, so is it not just the drink, not just the product, the around the product? That is a really intelligent add-on because any commercial can have show the item, show it poured, maybe even show someone taking a sip of it. But that specific, and you hear that caffeinated, see the little bubbles, that is definitively Coca-Cola. And within that shot, it conveys several things. What do you think that conveys? Emotions, good. What kind of emotions might it connect to? Persuasion. That's a little meta. Let's dial it back a little bit. And if you're really thirsty and you hear that, what kind of emotion might you feel? Joy, good. Satisfaction, good. Relief if you're really thirsty. Like if you're really hungry and you take that first bite of whatever it is, pizza, hamburger, immediately you want to take a drink. And so that just feels like satisfaction, joy, relief. Like, yes, this is the moment. Small little thing like that all of a sudden becomes iconic, not just in its representation, but in its connectivity, its interconnectivity to its audience. So good. What other things about Coke? What other things connect you? The red, iconic red. Now they started to deviate. They've got some other colors now. I've seen some green cans. Those green cans have specific meaning, both for marketing and for branding. But what other things? Like what are some of the visuals? Polar bears. Polar bears are definitely iconic. You can, at Christmas, see a polar bear and you don't have to see a Coke. You just automatically, your mind goes to Coke. Subliminal advertising in that is now connected to the idea of wanting that refreshing Coca-Cola. So there are lots of different aspects to branding. Yes, branding is, here is what we are, here is what we do. But the biggest brands, the smartest brands, oftentimes connect to the how they do it, as in like the brand organic. That is a how we do what we do. If you believe in us, we are doing things sustainably. We are doing things correctly. Or a why they do it, which is bringing people happiness, bringing people joy, bringing people, what they need at a reasonable cost, bringing people, consumer, it's called conspicuous consumption when you have a brand that is at an elite level and people want it simply because it represents an elite status. So sometimes that also falls into the market. You know, knowing why your consumers want you is very important. So obviously, we have talked about the ideas of what represents the brand. At its core, Coke is a drinking product. But what is the ideal outcome of a having been drank product? Refreshment, joy, happiness. Okay, well, how do we get their attention? Iconic colors, iconic imagery, iconic sounds. These are all things that when seen, when experienced, contribute to that idea of a brand. But how do we see the brand? What are some other, let's keep on Coca-Cola. How are they marketed? Yeah, I mean,
I think when I see like an advertisement, they also brand the like family reunion. So I think like Christmas, all that stuff, like you have a Coca-Cola in your table when it's family.
it's not family unless there's Coca-Cola.
Correct.
This is a different brand, but just yesterday I heard Olive Garden's tagline got changed a little bit. It used to be when you're here, your family. And now it's your family when you're here. But it's the same concept, with us, your family. Coca-Cola would probably be like, is it true? Are you experiencing the maximum amount of happiness that you can? If you don't have a Coke, something along, because if you watch the commercials, a lot of times they're right before, maybe a movie starts. It's always a fun group. It's always kids taking a chance and being rewarded for the chance. It's always kids working really hard and being rewarded for the hard work. It's always something where the reward is their feelings, but then the Coke sort of emphasizes those feelings. So the marketing is also very strategic. So we've talked about a couple of different examples, but what mediums are used for the marketing? Mediums, as in what types of things are utilized to push or promote the different products? What was that?
Athletes.
Athletes, good. Absolutely. That's all right.
This is an amazing soccer
We're talking
player.
about athletes.
We were talking about Coca-Cola, and we were talking about how Coca-Cola, we've already identified different types of branding that Coca-Cola uses, but what are some of its marketing tactics? How does it promote itself? So we've talked about, polar
Yeah.
bears, we definitely have talked about, but I love how that's almost always the first thing that people think of if it's not that iconic red. It's the cursive manuscript on the iconic red, polar bears. Athletes, they definitely utilize athletes, probably not as much as secondary brand like a McDonald's does, but they definitely do utilize athletes specifically, probably with their, low calorie or no calorie, Coke Zero, Diet Coke kinds of commercials. So good. But getting back to the mediums, and when you hear the word medium, think print, think TV, think radio, think, it kind of sounds silly. Can you see a Coke ad on radio? Think about it.
Oh, you can visualize.
Can you see a Coke ad on radio? You hear that pop of the bottle and that crack and fizz, you know exactly what you're hearing. You know exactly the slow pour into an ice cold glass, the ice just kind of cracking. You know exactly what you're hearing
And then I think somebody goes,
afterwards. Absolutely. You can see all of them because they have interconnected, not just colors, not just the who is promoting it. They have interconnected all of the fields into their advertising. So you can see a static image. It's not moving in a magazine. And you can imagine where those polar bears came from, maybe where those polar bears are going. You can see all of that. You can hear, but then see what you're hearing from a radio ad. You can imagine, if you're seeing it, you can imagine yourself, sipping on Coke if you see it on the big screen. That's why they show it right before the movie starts. It's not because they want to be the last. It's because they want to encourage you, hey, this is your last chance. Go get that Coke. It's a long movie. Go get that Coke. You won't regret it. It's a long movie. Go get that Coke. They don't want to say that. That's an awful habit. But they show the slow pour, the pop, pop, fizz, fizz, the iconic color. You see someone, it's a full glass, and all of a sudden, set it down and it's half gone. You know that was refreshing sip. That is branding interplaying with marketing. All of that is very, very important for the brand, the market. So are there questions related to what we just discussed? Okay, so we talked a lot about big picture, Coca-Cola. Well, we have local Coca-Cola affiliates. We have local Pepsi-Cola affiliates. We have local national affiliates here in Yuma. But I also figure you are talking about, you're also talking about how can you as a potential entrepreneur, how can you as a budding industry professional utilize these tactics to grow your brand, to connect to an existing localized brand, to help it grow. So what are some tactics that we can take away from Coke that can be applied to local?
Like a mascot kind of thing almost.
Yeah, the idea of iconic imagery. So here in town, we have the peanut patch. The peanut patch has iconic imagery. It's a trademark logo. It actually had to be ridiculously specifically trademarked because it was a little too close to Mr. Peanut from Planters at one point. So they added the over poncho and the sombrero, and they made it very Yuma County specific. But you recognize it when you see it. You also have localized brands that are utilizing some of those same tactics. Maybe it's not just the logo is instantly recognizable. It's how they're utilizing that logo within the types of advertising that they do. One specific brand is a pest control company. And every Chamber of Commerce breakfast, and this is the best part, every Chamber of Commerce breakfast, a gigantic slide pops up for his pest control business that shows a big fat roach on its back, legs up in the air, it's dead. That everybody's eating, and they see this gigantic roach up in the air. Max Force Pest Control. This is the ideal kind of roach that if you see a roach, this is how you want to see it. Nobody wants to see it while they're eating, but everybody remembers these sorts of things. Like people are little, I hate that ad, but it definitely works. Some of his other imagery includes, wasps that look like they're about to sting or ants that look like they're about to bite. And the idea here is these are things that you don't want to happen to you. Call us, we'll take care of it. So he gets you with the live ones that kind of look threatening, gets you with the dead ones, what is it? The ideal bug is a dead bug, kind of imagery. So, these are ways that you can bring big picture concepts, attach them to emotions, into static advertising. One of Max Force's really popular YouTube/commercials just featured for the first 20 seconds of the 30-second ad, just a little 6-7-year-old girl crying in slow motion, just hysterically, and you're not really sure what you're watching until all of a sudden at the end, don't let a bug, make you cry or something along these lines. Max Force Pest Control. Don't let a bug ruin your day. And all of a sudden, it just connects. These are things that can be done at a localized level. And you just have to see what works at a big picture level and how can it be applied locally. So we've talked about branding, we've talked about marketing. Let's talk about these last two things, concepts of management and planning. So management is something that is super important. How many of you know the industry that you're looking to break into once you graduate? Like the industry. HVAC, plumbing, automotive repair, banking, CPA. Okay, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking something having to do with electronics.
Electronics, so electronic, like electrical servicing,
Most
or
mostly,
like
having to do
repairing,
with
Okay.
repairing, fixing, and reselling.
okay, repairing, fixing, reselling. Okay, so do you know how much time you're going to be putting into the actual industry versus how much time you're going to be putting into cooking the books? Making
Hey.
sure, uh-oh.
No,
Say
no.
cooking the books.
No, you're not.
Into
Counting professor.
managing the books, into making sure that all of your employees are paid correctly, making sure that all of those FICA taxes are being deducted. If you offer any benefits, are they being deducted? Are they being paid? You know, bookkeeping, tax accounting, record keeping, all of this factors in. And a lot of times what happens is you as an individual, you have this idea of what you want to become as, you know, as an entrepreneur. You know that you want to open up an air conditioning. You love tinkering with your hands. You love, building things, taking things apart, building things. You want to work in plumbing. You want to build houses. You want to, you enjoy the thrill of potentially not being shocked. So you want to work with electric, whatever it is. I've been shocked a couple of times. Don't get shocked. It's not fun. But you know what industry you want to get into. But then you get into it and you quickly realize you're working more in the management aspect of things, the business management, than you are necessarily with everything else. Especially true as your business gets bigger and you grow, because you cannot be in 2 or 3 or 4 different places at one time. So, question.
So I actually, since I was like, I don't know, 3 years ago or so, I've been working in carpentry with a family member of mine. And I got into the management aspect because my grandpa himself is the manager of the company. So when he was doing his employees, taxes, employees, this, employees, that, I had to be the one to translate it to his employees.
Okay.
Like say,
So-
oh, he wants to tell you this about your family issues and all that stuff. And I'd be teaching them what he wants to tell them, but he just couldn't word it correctly.
Understandable. So what were 3 things that you specifically had to learn managing that side or being that intermediary between that side of the business to the employees? What were 3 things that you had to pay attention to, or else it could kind of cause problems if it wasn't done timely?
Well, a lot of things that I paid attention to was whether they had papers or not, whether they were legal.
So,
Yeah,
so documented status.
yeah. And I also had to pay attention to how they were like morale wise, if they
Morale?
were- if
Okay,
they were willing to
So
work.
mental health
Yes.
/ morale.
Yeah.
All right. So then
And then I had to pay attention to like how old they were. Their
how
physical.
old? So
So it's like,
age,
yeah,
physical.
Yeah, the physical wellness. Because obviously, if we're doing a whole house and my grandpa needs someone to sand down the whole floor while I'm taking care of a house and he's taking care of a different one, I can't give it to our 84-year-old
Yeah.
guy that
So I'm
just goes
actually
and
change
cleans
that
up.
description.
I can't.
That might be age discrimination.
Yeah, I had to. I can't even sand the floorboard.
There's definitely some nuanced things that are probably best discussed, off record. But look, the number one thing that I wanted to take away is construction. When you think of construction, what do you think of?
Building houses.
Building houses,
Yeah. Just building.
working with your hands,
Yeah.
tools. What tools do you think of?
Hammer.
Hammer, nails,
Yeah.
saws, level, if you're doing it correctly, level and a ruler, measuring tape. And yet these were things that factored into all of that. So the management aspect is very, very important. So as you start to approach where it is that you're wanting to attach your future to, where it is you want to learn, who it is you want to learn from, why it is that you want to learn those specific things, also start thinking about, okay, if I become an entrepreneur, how does the business beyond the industry start to factor in? The business, beyond the industry. Industry is what service your business offers, but the business is the service, the employees, the taxes, the bookkeeping, the payroll, the insurance, the OSHA seminars, all of it. Because if you let a couple of those slide for too long, one thing that you didn't say that I was hoping you would say is schedule, calendar. These things, if you let them slide, you're in trouble. It might result in missed opportunities. It might result in fines. It might result in missed labor opportunities, all of these sorts of things. So
schedule is hard because not a lot of people want to work in that business that we do. That's
definitely understand that. It's right now is crazy time in just about every single industry. And I can say that pretty easily, that lots of times you hear in the news it's service related industries, but I know contractors who pay really, really well and offer benefits that are also struggling to find physical skilled labor. I know people who are offering the cushy indoor receptionist, administrative, you're inside, air conditioning, you're answering phones, and those positions are struggling to be filled at the moment. So there's lots of things, and that leads to the last thing that you should plan for, which is the unplannable. Think of those worst case scenarios, think of some different sorts of things that might factor in, because how can you plan for something like what we are currently living through? As a business, unless you're so successful that you've been able to set aside and or have been able to adapt both in the branding and the marketing aspect of things to keep your brand image alive, if you can no longer sponsor physical in-person events, but also in the employment side of things. If people feel that it's in their and their family's best interest to not work because of a pandemic, then how can you fulfill? There are things that are just almost impossible to go ahead and plan for. And that's why you need a plan. So looking at the board here, we talk about planning. I talk about management is the overarching, but planning is the micro. So what are some plans that can help address some of these things that I have written on the board? So schedule, calendar, the age, physical limitations, mental health, morale, documented statuses, all of these. How can we plan that if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner?
You have standards.
Okay, standards, we'll get back to that one. Feel as though that's a layered answer. Best looked at.
Oh, like standards,
it back.
like some kind of in the job application process or
Okay.
whatever, it says you must be able to work these days. Like where I work right now is at Walgreens, and I couldn't get a certain job in the pharmacy because my hours were cut. So that has to do with my schedule. So I had to go down to another job, and then when my hours will get better, which is probably in a few months, then I'll move up to the pharmacy.
I like that. I actually think that that's a really good example, and I actually have an example that works with that. When I was fresh out of high school, I worked a job at a then national chain with multiple local stores, and they hired me and said that I would only work one Sunday a month. And then the first 6 weeks that I was employed by them, I worked every single Sunday. And 2 of those 6 Sundays were doubles. And, I was going to school full time, as well. And I wanted to do some stuff with family and friends. And that was really the only day that I, could, where all the family was available.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, so this isn't exactly what you told me. And I quit. Forgive me. I quit the Wednesday before Black Friday. And I did it on purpose to send the message, you hired me
Where
for
did you
this.
work at?
I'm not saying a word.
Oh, okay.
This was 20 years ago. But had they been upfront with me,
Yeah.
they could have hired someone who was willing to work those hours. maybe that was the best days for them to work. But instead, they hired me, who said, yes, I can work, 1 or 2 Sundays a month. I have no problem with that. And then they proceeded to work me 6 consecutive Sundays. And it just wasn't something that fit my mental health / morale. So I decided it was in my best interest to no longer work that job. And I put the manager in a dire situation. I went and picked up my check that Black Friday and walked right past him, and he was working when he wasn't scheduled to. And, gave me the death stare. I'm not saying a word. I'm not saying a word. But that is something. So when you say standards, yeah, you want high quality standards for your business. If you're doing HVAC, you want to have standards of operating. That's what the whole point of the Better Business Bureau is for. These are better businesses committed to higher standards of consumer relations, of product service, product quality, all of that. But standards of hiring, I like where you went with that. That was a very good plan for that. Be honest and upfront in the vetting / hiring process, and you might avoid problems like me quitting the Wednesday before Black Friday with no notice. So other plans. This will be the last one, and then I'll briefly discuss some things going on in the month. But I think you might.
Oh, there's candy back there if you
Oh.
want candy. That's what she's doing.
I still have plenty from post Halloween sales. But last one. So what's another plan for something that's on here? We've addressed mental health / morale, maybe age or physical, maybe documented status, maybe schedule, the schedule or the calendar. What's a plan that we can be put in place that can help manage these types of things? Structure.
Yeah.
So keep going.
Organizing people,
Organizing people. So hierarchy structure,
Yeah.
Have people that are good at these specific jobs and oversee people that are good at these specific jobs. Okay, entry level people. Okay. I like structure. Structure is very important. Other things?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
The CPA firms here in Yuma are expressing a need to start filling the shoes of people who are getting ready to retire and move out. And so they're talking about they want interns. So bringing in new blood, so to
I like
speak,
that.
training up the people who are going to replace your older people who want to retire.
So schedule calendar. I was thinking small picture, you have it as a big picture thing, because even if we're a 10 or 15 or 25-year employee, we're all eventually on a retirement calendar or a life calendar, unfortunately. During this time, I have known multiple young entrepreneurs or members of their family or very vital business people within the community who have unfortunately suddenly passed away. Sometimes due to what we're going through, other times that's just how life is sometimes. And you have to have strategies or plans in place. And that is a very smart, big picture calendar type of planning. Bringing in, I'm someone who definitely says internships have some sort of pay to them
They should.
because they just should. But look into those opportunities. I know multiple businesses offer assistantships, fellowships, internships where you can learn from paid professionals. And I know I have heard of programs, I think through Arizona Western College, but also maybe there are programs through the individual businesses where they will bring you in at slightly lower cost now, but if you work out, all of a sudden, boom, you're at not just entry level, but you're at beyond entry level type, because they need stopgaps sometimes. And if you work out as that stopgap, now all of a sudden they don't want to lose you, so they make it super competitive. So
there's businesses that, like, if you just show up and ask for an internship, you can get it. Like, I was looking to become a physical therapist of some sort, like physical training, strengthening, stuff like that. And I was like, I don't know, 16 maybe. And I went to the place down here. It's been changed so many times. It was called Physical. It was called something else, and now it's called something else. It's got its own little van outside the bus.
Yep.
And I was interning there, and the manager, I forgot his name. I think it was like Carl or something like that. The manager just let me be there for a little bit, and I got to learn more about the body and all that. And he was preparing, like you said, for everybody to leave.
That's good. I like it. I think with internships, it's great to have the opportunities, but internships don't just factor in calendar. They also factor in things like statuses. So maybe not documented status, but maybe something like licensed status, insured status, qualified status. These types of things can definitely factor in. If you're an electrician and you're hiring an intern, it's super important that you don't hire someone who doesn't know what they're doing, because one wrong move and they might be dead. So, qualified status is definitely a big one. So I like everything that was discussed here. And if this is something, I'm gonna put it out there. I would love to do one of these once a quarter type of thing with you all.
Okay,
And we can.
I think
we
they
can
would
chat
love
about
that.
things.
What's a quarter?
Once a quarter, every 3 months.
Every 3
So.
months? That's it?
Well,
that's it. Well, you know what? Actually, he's
I
gonna
don't
talk
think you know
about,
how busy I am. We've been trying to get this one on the books for like a month and a half. So, 3 things that are going on that I think you all should be aware of. As aspiring young professional, potentially aspiring entrepreneurs, there is the Chamber of Commerce here in Yuma that is very hands-on, that has mixers, has breakfasts, that definitely are a value to the people who pay for it.
we
Now,
actually have a number of the students that are attending tomorrow.
I will be there. That's incredible. Love to hear it.
It's over here, right?
Yep, it's somewhere. I need to look.
No,
They-
actually, it's
they-
just
they-
right
they
over there.
Okay.
Go,
It's
yeah, go
showing-
look for the solar panels, the
Okay,
parking
yep,
lot under the
yep.
solar panels.
Yeah, so it's showing.
Center,
3C,
mhm.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a
Um,
big, huge room.
It used to be almost always at the Hilton Garden Inn.
It
that
was
conference
last
center.
month.
It was last month. Our new chamber director likes to move it around each month and
Oh.
just kind of spread the wealth. So,
Hey.
quarterly, it meets at the Hilton Garden Inn Conference Center. Other times it's met at Cocopa, it's met at the Civic Center. Now it's meeting at the Shonin Conference Center here. So, any
Yep.
big venue, they're gonna try and connect.
That's
Um,
interesting. I didn't
That
know
is
that.
an excellent opportunity to shake as many hands as you can. One of my rules when going to these types of events is if I recognize more than 2 people at the table, find a different table. I don't want to sit down with people that I already know. That's not because I don't like them. I do. I love them all. But my job there isn't to be buddy with people that I already know. It's to try and get to know and build up and bring in and, send out aspiring young professionals or new to the area professionals, or just new to the idea of joining chambers of commerce types of professionals. So Chamber of Commerce, definitely something that I recommend. Then we have 2 different events upcoming these next 2 weekends. This first one is going to be an all-day Saturday event, and the rate is $25 per student, but it's an all-day event with national speakers coming in. And it's going to be an opportunity to market throughout, and it includes a free concert ticket to Kids at Hope and their support system later that evening at the Heritage site, just beyond downtown. There's going to be a local band, there's going to be AC/DC tribute band and a Beatles
Woo!
tribute band, and maybe it's not your genre of music, but again, it's a great place to hang out, get to know some folks, and the whole ticket is definitely worth that. I know people that are paying several $100s for their one ticket, so it's a great value. That is going to be November 6th. It is called the Yuma Entrepreneur Show. It is 3.0. This is the 3rd time that they are doing it. It's going to be at the historic Yuma Theater downtown. I will connect all of that information. I'll send it to you in a message, and
Yeah,
if you're interested, we can try and figure some stuff out.
And I already mentioned to the students, I'd find a way to pay for their tickets.
Okay.
Those who want to go.
And so that's $25 this upcoming November 6th. So literally like 3 days. I talked to one of the owners, the promoters of it, and she's like, oh my God. Like, she's so excited that it's happening. They went and they picked up their first of their big name speakers. He's going to be doing kind of a nonprofit, kind of meeting at some churches and doing some different events throughout the next couple of days. And he's what you would call a motivational speaker. He's a Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots. And
He's really tall.
Yeah,
and
Devin Wyman. Yeah.
Yeah, he can
No,
go to
it's not
church.
Tom Brady, but I'll tell you what, he can pick Tom Brady up and bend him over his head because he does that with steel bars.
Ah,
I'm
I
not
saw him
even
at my
joking.
church.
It's pretty crazy. So then that's this
Yeah.
coming weekend. The following weekend, and that's with the group, Yuma Entrepreneur Show. They have Thursday night mixers on the second Thursdays of the month. Typically, they meet at the airport at Brewers. I think it's $10 a time, but they're the group that does the different types of role-playing activities, skits on business prep, business development. And so if you're interested in getting to know some folks there, definitely worth your time.
Okay.
The last thing that I'm going to discuss here today is on Saturday, November 13th, Next Gen Leadership Council. We'll talk a little bit more about them as a group in a second. They are hosting the second annual foot golf tournament. You're like,
What?
foot golf? What is foot golf?
Ah.
Think golf, but with soccer.
Oh, yeah.
So Desert Hills Par 3 off of Avenue A and 32nd Street has a foot golf course. Behind the greens are soccer ball sized holes. So you kick the soccer ball. It's great. The whole day you're going to be paired up with other folks, and that is, I'll try and chat about the cost there, but if you got a team together, we can make it decent. And it's a lot of fun because then afterwards, there is going to be opportunities for you to mix and mingle with a lot of Yuma's top entrepreneurs, most giving entrepreneurs, nonprofit organizations. On my team are the leaders of that Yuma Entrepreneur Show. They're going to be on my Better Business Bureau team. So it's a lot of fun. You get to be outdoors. You get to talk, get to mix and mingle. And then Next Gen as an organization, they're committed to the attraction and retention of growing professionals within the Yuma area. That is one thing that Yuma desperately needs is build up of skill, retention of that skill. Because we don't want to spend the money to build it up only for it to be lost. So we put emphasis on development, professional development, community outreach, different sorts of social networking mixers. Ours are typically on the third Thursday. November, our event is going to be the foot golf. And then in December, we're going to start something. And then next year, we have a lot of different events planned.
Do you have to be over 21 to go to
For
the mixer?
some of the mixers, maybe. For
Okay.
most of them, no, because they're either professional development or they meet at,
Because I do have a number of
or they
19
meet
year
at
olds.
restaurants. We typically will meet at restaurants,
Okay, and
not
that's fine.
bars for that
Okay.
very reason. There are, yeah, and no,
No.
we're on record. No. So, but what I did want to do before we go ahead and, I turn it back over is I've got business cards here. You never know. My mantra in life is you never know what a thing can be. Okay. So you leave here today and you're like, well, that was fun. Or maybe you're like, well, that's not. Either way, I want it to be memorable. But all of a sudden somebody asks you a question. You're like, you know what? I don't know. But you know what? I got this business card. Maybe this dude has an answer for you. And you just never know. I actually got this job because somebody that I was offering that free consultative services for,
What?
like the effort
Are
that
we
I
on a
did so
team for
well,
football?
that when he heard about this job, he was like, hey, I would hate
Yes.
to lose you as that consultative, but this is a perfect job for you. So you never know what a thing can be when you when you work hard, when you work well, when you do your job the way it's supposed to, when you talk to people, when you get to know them, when you take a few chances, you just never know. Maybe this business card will come in handy for you. So, yep.
I think the thing that is this the one like located in that little thing next to like the Starbucks that on board that
Yep,
building?
yep.
See, I knew it.
Yep, it's
I
the
was like, I
tall,
think
it's
in
one
that
of
building.
3 tall buildings here in Yuma, for sure.
It's the tallest building.
Yeah, I think the hospital is the tallest, then is the Crescent Center, then is Pancrazy. So, yep, that's typically how it goes.
I don't even remember.
And the
some.
crest is 4 as well, although it's a weird 4 because technically it's only like 2 levels. I think both levels are like super high roofs, but it's technically a 4-story tall building.
I
Crest
don't
is
remember.
downtown.
I've never been, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I don't remember. There's just so much stuff going on. I just, yeah, every once in a while I find a building with an elevator.
Yeah.
So,
We are one of the handful with an elevator. here,
okay.
so.
So I'm going to email you so that I can get all that information you're talking about upcoming events, because I know a lot of the students, especially some of those who weren't able to make it today. There's like 2 I can think of, actually 3 off the top of my head, who probably would have liked to have been here. So, and I'm gonna offer that up to the students. I'll find a way to get you guys paid and into the events. I'll go beg money. I'll go beg at Dr. Core's door. So, yeah, I need your wallet open.
Well, I know Dr. Core has been a guest speaker of ours at a professional development series last year with Next Gen Leadership Council. So I know he's familiar with that organization. I am not sure if he's ever done anything with Yuma Entrepreneur Show, but I can tell you that just last month, Mayor of Yuma was at the Yuma Entrepreneur Show.
So Mayor Nichols.
Yep, Mayor Nichols.
Yeah, I pointed them out to somebody who had a question. Who is that? I'm like, that's the mayor.
Yeah, so
So.
I mean, these aren't.
And he owns
aren't just
Nicholas
things that
Engineering.
People do. These are things that the big people
Yeah,
tend to know about.
And networking is good because then you get to meet people and they're a resource, you know. I could say, hey, I'm looking for an accounting job. And if somebody has something they heard about, they can pass that on. I'm accounting, so I'm disappointed, by the way, that none of you put accounting up here.
Yeah, I kept waiting for it. I thought the 3 were gonna be, basically like
Yeah, well.
accounting and hiring and
I know, I
schedules.
split myself up.
But I like where this went because it was unexpected.
Yeah.
And it really shows the depth of which you have to plan
Oh, yeah.
and know and strategize and obsess over if you're going to succeed.
Yeah, and most of my business students that are coming into this business club, they're not my accounting students. They're going in, they're getting their A-bus degrees or their associates in business. I've got a number of students who like entrepreneurial. We do have an entrepreneurial professor. I don't know if you know that. It's
I don't
Mark
know.
LaFond.
I recognize the name. I'm so much better with people's faces, although this pandemic has definitely ruined that for me.
Yeah, you have
I
to
will
put a mask on
confidently
them.
approach someone like, hey, what's up? And they're like looking at me and I'm like, oh crap, that was not the person I thought it was. From this up, they looked exactly like who I thought, but they weren't down.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so I'm gonna give him your card too, because I know he does finance and entrepreneurial as well as accounting courses. So I'll give him your card as well. So I really enjoyed hearing you speaking. And I know the students loved it too, because I even had a couple of students tell me that they aren't good at speaking. And I'm like, well, this is why we practice. And I'm sure you did a lot of practicing, radio, everything else.
Yes, so if you practice within structure, within planning, I can tell you right now, the only thing I had planned for this hour was those last 3 announcements that I made about the chamber, about the 2 events. This was just feeling out the room. So if you understand the dynamics of public speaking, you understand the aspects of nuanced schedule, not scheduling, but like chronicling what it is that you want to do. And you ask questions. So many public speakers don't ask questions. Ask questions because they'll let you know what they're hoping to learn. And from there, just put together a small little strategy and I let your answers basically dictate where the conversation went. And I didn't have an agenda, just kind of extemporaneously spoke. That is definitely a skill that is learned, but it is one that can be done, but it does require a lot of practice well before you start extemporaneous.
Now I'm just playing with the camera.
Oh,
Who's watching?
Well, I'm recording.
You're recording it?
I am. Yeah, and I'm doing.
I told you invite me to drink.
No, I was record. I'm
That's why-
actually
that's why we
recording.
were like,
That's okay.
I'm joking, by the way.
yeah. Hypothetical scenarios.
On record, it was a joke.
On record, it was a joke. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording. I'm gonna put